Hello world, good morning, namaste, and Nisam Bulavinaka from Sydney, Australia. I am Sashi Singh, and welcome once again to Sashi Singh's Talking Point. In episode 42 this week, we will shortly meet our chief guest, Ms. Lydia Eliana Lazel, who is a lawyer in Fiji by profession and is now a provisional candidate for the SODELPA party. We shall speak to our chief guest about matters that concern the Fijian people and what SODELPA brings to the table of national politics. We shall also discuss issues that are relevant to the women in the country and how this ought to be addressed under the political landscape in Fiji. All that, plus a whole lot more, to discuss with our chief guest, Miss Lydia Eliana Lazel. I hope wherever you are well settled in to enjoy what promises to be a captivating, engaging, and enlightening interview with my chief guest. As always, I request that today, as we go right around the world by the wonders of Facebook Live and YouTube, that you please once again share the SSTP page on your own timelines so that we may share the interview with Miss Lydia Eliana Lazel with as many interested people as possible. And to ensure that you receive instant notifications for all future programs, please like and share the SSTP page as well. Let me also tell you, immediately after the interview with Lydia this morning, we will also be joined by the General Secretary of the National Federation Party, Ms. Seni Nambo, to discuss things relevant to the party in light of the charges faced by the party leader, and, of course, discuss the big news of the day, the announcement, which Nikhil will cover very, very shortly. Welcome to the Thinking People's program, Sashi Singh's Talking Point, live on Facebook and on YouTube. And as always, we begin episode 42 today with a quick recap of what has been making the main news headlines in Fiji and Australia with our regular contributor, Nikhil Singh. Nikhil, welcome back to Sashi Singh's Talking Point. And it's your turn to unwrap this week's main news. Let's get straight to your segment, Nikhil. The wait is finally over, as they say. The elections date has been announced. Please enlighten us on this, Nikhil.
What a morning, Sashi. This is something that we have all been waiting for. So after all this speculation, we have seen this morning the government posting on their social media handles an announcement. And if I look at what's on their Facebook page, this is what it reads, and I quote, "The Prime Minister visited His Excellency the President this morning to advise that the general election date will be 14 December 2022 and also advised on the dissolution of Parliament with effect from today." So, Sashi, the wait is over. The country will go to the polls on the 14th of December.
And I understand you going to Fiji for Christmas.
Let's hope so. Sashi. That's the plan.
Yes, I've been reading some very interesting Facebook comments on your page. All right, Nikhil, to serious stuff. The ABC has reported that opposition MPs in Fiji have accused Frank Bainimarama's government of conducting a campaign of coordinated intimidation and legal harassment against its political opponents as voters in the Pacific Island country prepare to go to the polls. This comes after the National Federation Party leader, Professor Biman Prasad, was last week charged with insulting one's modesty. Please tell us more.
Sashi, police have accused Mr. Prasad of hugging and kissing the cheek of Ari Taniguchi, the wife of former NFP provisional candidate Hiroshi Taniguchi, on 2 occasions at the NFP offices in Suva. Now, in a separate statement on social media, the National Federation Party has called the accusations, I quote, trivial and malicious. Now, academic Stephen Ratuva, who was a guest on this program, Sashi, he's told the ABC that the charges against Mr. Prasad would feed into the broader atmosphere of fear and intimidation in Fiji. Biman Prasad is currently on bail and is due to appear in court on the 15th of November. Now, Sashi, in further development, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Christopher Pride, has confirmed that in the present case regarding Professor Biman Prasad, police have advised that they will forward the docket to the DPP so that an advice can be provided to them on the appropriate charges to lay, if any. Pride says in making a decision on the appropriate charge, if any, the DPP will consider any defense representations or other defenses that may be available. So, Sashi, the thing to note here is that police, when they laid the charge, they did not actually seek advice. They went ahead to charge Professor Biman Prasad. We now hear from the DPP that they have been made aware that police will forward the docket for some advice on this matter, Sashi.
And that's a story that we will be keeping a close watch on, Nikhil, no doubt. Now, the High Court gave its ruling last week on Suva lawyer Richard Naidu's application to cross-examine Attorney General Kayyum in the committal proceedings. Please tell us what the ruling is, and I also understand Naidu's lawyer, Mr. John Apted, is now facing a potential charge as well.
Yes, Sashi, is reported in Fiji Village, the Suva High Court has refused Richard Naidu's application to cross-examine the Attorney General in the substantive matter. It now appears that the Attorney General's legal team has got Naidu's lawyer John Apted in their sights. Mr. Apted has been accused of contempt of court for comments made in court 2 weeks ago for his client Richard Naidu. Gul Fatima, the lawyer for the Attorney General, told the High Court that Mr. Apted had said that if evidence could not be challenged in court proceedings, that would be a kangaroo court. She claimed that Mr. Apted's comments were, I quote, contempt in the face of the court. Justice Nanayakra said a matter of contempt in the face of court should go before another judge and that Ms. Fatima could inform the court registry, Sashi.
Yes, interesting times in Fiji's judiciary as well. Now, Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama is not in control, and his claim of not knowing when the elections will be held is the joke of the century. That is what former Prime Minister and People's Alliance leader Sitiveni Rambuka had said. More on this, please.
Yes, Sashi. I know the date has been announced this morning, but I think this piece goes to the question of who is in control. Now, according to Fiji Village, Sitiveni Rambuka said it must be the joke of the century, where the Prime Minister, Bainimarama, said he was eager to find out the election date. Rambuka said Bainimarama is the person who is supposed to be setting the date based on the Constitution. He says this shows the Prime Minister is not the one in control. Now, Sashi, earlier last week, we probably had more information on this election date from the Attorney General because the Attorney General had announced that the election would be held on a Wednesday, no later than the first week of January. And on the other hand, the Prime Minister was going around and saying that he was trying to find out when the election will be held. Against the Prime Minister is the one who actually sets the election date. The NFP also had a thing or two to say about this. Biman Prasad claimed the Prime Minister was fooling around and pretending he did not know the general election date. All the while, Fiji First Party billboards were being erected across the country, Sashi.
Indeed, sometimes makes me wonder whether the right hand knows what the left hand is doing, etc. Now, the Fiji Labour Party has questioned the independence of the incoming Multinational Observer Group, MOG, coming for the 2022 general elections, and says the MOG will be a waste of time. Why is the FLP saying this?
Well, the FLP leader and former Prime Minister Mahendra Chaudhry says the MOG's terms of reference has been provided by the Fijian government and not independently framed in accordance with the international standards adopted by democratic nations. Chaudhry has also said that the MOG's appointment comes too late in the day for it to effectively monitor all the processes leading up to the elections. He said that election observer groups must have the autonomy to work independently of the government, and the incoming multinational observer group coming for the 22 general election will be a waste of time.
All right, closer to home, Nikhil, here in Australia, Treasurer Jim Chalmers has delivered Labour's first budget in a decade with a focus on the future. Who are the winners and losers?
Looking at the winners, I've got some dot points together, Sashi. One of the centerpieces of the government's budget and its election campaign is its $4.7 billion spent on childcare over the next 4 years. That's a huge announcement, a win for, I guess, parents. The first Labor budget has renewable energy as one of its key priorities. Like many of the other items in the budget, the government has followed through on its commitment to clean energy with $800 million earmarked for a range of projects. Now, the next one is I've already reported this in one of our previous episodes, the Pacific region. The government will boost foreign aid to the Pacific by about $900 million over the next 4 years. So there's a win for Pacific Island countries, including Fiji. NBN, this is one that has been riddled with issues and problems and troubles in past years. Around 1.5 million Australian homes will get access to fibre to the premises NBN internet at a cost of $2.4 million as an equity investment over the next 4 years. And the next on my list is actually the funding to the ABC, which was cut by the previous government. The Labor government is following through with its pre-election promise to restore $83.7 million over 4 years in funding to the ABC. Looking at what's not so good, now before it was elected, Labor made it very clear it would target some of the previous government's grant programs that it believed were an attempt to win votes and weren't value for money. Following through on the promise, it's cancelled around $2 billion in grants that were promised by the previous Liberal and National governments. This in relation to the sports roads and color-coded spreadsheets, Sashi. And there is more bad news in the budget for wage earners. If the cost of living crisis hasn't been bad enough, it looks like wage growth won't match inflation until at least next year.
And Nikhil, talking about inflation, the September quarter inflation figures were released last week. What do you have on this?
Some quick key points, Sashi. The consumer price index, the CPI, rose 1.8% this quarter, which is the September quarter. Over the 12 months to the September quarter, the CPI rose 7.3%. The most significant price rises were new dwelling purchases by owner occupiers. That was up by 3.7%. Gas and other household fuels up by a massive 10.9%, and furniture up by 6.6%. So, Sashi, the latest inflation figure of 7.3% is the highest level since 1990, and that just means that interest rates are now likely to be higher for much longer.
All right, Nikhil. Well, thank you very much for your contribution as always. Great news that election date has been announced, and SSTP will get into action starting now, I guess, with the election countdown.
Looking forward to it, Sashi.
Thank you very much. You have a wonderful day. God bless. Cheers.
Thank you. Likewise.
Well, a lot of viewers have already joined in. Thank you very much for being part of SSTP. Very shortly, we'll meet our chief guest. And then, right after the interview with our chief guest, we will also be speaking with the General Secretary of the National Federation Party, Ms. Seni Nambo, regarding matters in relation to the party itself, in light of Professor Biman Prasad's charges that he's facing, and other things of interest regarding the writ of elections that's been filed. To Pritham Karan, John Wanakula, and a couple of others, Nina Moreno, thank you very much for your stars that you've been sending, and also Roma Singh. Cheers. Thank you very much for that. Yes, send your likes, send your heart emojis. If you're frustrated, send your angry emojis. Please don't. Yes, send them across, and thank you once again for your stars that you've been sending. That's greatly appreciated. You are watching Sashi Singh's Talking Point on Facebook Live. We ask the questions that Fijians all over the world want answers to. As I say, Fijians want to know. Please like and follow the SSTP page if you've not done so. As always, I have an important announcement to share with our viewers. Sashi Singh's talking point. SSTP recognizes that questioning, constructive arguments, and opinions are part of conversation, but posts with aggressive personal attacks, profanity, name calling, swearing, and defamatory in nature and/or threatening will be removed immediately, and offenders will be blocked from being a part of the SSTP program. Let's observe these rules and enjoy today's program. And like I said, just before we meet our chief guest, let me tell you that immediately after the interview with our chief guest, I will be talking to the General Secretary of the National Federation Party, Ms. Seni Nambo, about her party and the ramifications of the party leader facing charges. We'll also discuss matters in relation to the elections as well. That is coming at the tail end of today's program. Now it is time to meet our chief guest on Sashi Singh's talking point. My chief guest today is Miss Lydia Eliana Lazel, a lawyer by profession and a provisional candidate for SODELPA. Our chief guest has had her share of personal trials and tribulations and has risen from those to successfully complete a law degree that has seen her own her own law practice. Her resilience and determination to be a voice for the people has seen her take the giant stride to put her name forward as a provisional candidate for the forthcoming general elections. It is my pleasure now to introduce our chief guest for today, Miss Lydia Eliana Lazel. Yes, welcome to Sashi Singh's Talking Point. Lydia Lazel, Nisam Bulavinaka, and welcome to SSTP. How are you this afternoon?
I'm very good, Mr. Singh, and thank you for allowing me to speak on this platform.
All right. Well, we seem to have got off to a frozen start. Hopefully, the internet doesn't play around too much because I'm looking forward to talking to you. Well, as I always do, I like to find out a bit about the background of my chief guests. Let's start off by asking you about your early childhood. Where were you born, Lydia?
Thank you, Mr. Singh. I was born in a village called Nangia in Wenimuka, Teyevu, where I was brought up by my mom. And later we moved into the city for further education. I went to school, in primary school at Latter-day Saint, LDS, before I joined in Sila Secondary School in Nosori.
All right. And what about... yep, go on.
I have 6 siblings. Mom got remarried again to my stepdad. I have 5 siblings there from Ra in Balendua, Nokorutumra. Yeah.
And what about your parents? You mentioned mum briefly. What did your parents do? What did dad do for a living?
I did not know dad until a few months before mom passed away. Then he introduced me to my dad.
Okay.
Dad is originally from Ngau in Lomaiviti, but I have no chance of being with him. But now I'm connected to my family from the Ngau village, which I'm happy. And yeah, so mom is just an ordinary domestic duties and do small business so that the children can survive. Yeah.
What about your educational background? All your studies, was it in Fiji, or you also had opportunity to travel abroad for studies?
Yes, I had opportunities. I was in, like I said, I attended primary school at LDS and then move up to Sila Secondary. And I went to USP to further continue my studies. I went to New Zealand as one of the USP alumni program. I went to Victoria University for 1 semester. And then I completed my study in Vanuatu, law studies in Vanuatu.
So that's where you finished your law degree?
Yes.
Okay, now, Lydia, who would you say was an early influence in your life?
I would say the early influence in my life is because I was brought up by my auntie, mom's elder sister. So she was my early influence in the sense that she had small business. She had 3 children and plus me to be the 4th child. So all along, she was doing all these small business, having restaurants and selling food. At that time, it was now it's the restaurant that is very opposite the bus stand, super bus stand, as many people can know. But they initially started at the wharf, yeah, and that's where my aunt used to go and sell food for us. So that what inspired me, that working hard in life, you can achieve better things.
All right. And what would you say is your earliest memory?
My earliest memory is, yeah, like I said, like waking up in the morning. I remembered when I come back from school during primary school, I have duties to perform, such as getting the food ready for her to sell the next day. And, and washing all these big pots. Those are my memories that I can still remember. And with this auntie of mine, everything has to be in order. The house has to be clean at this certain time, and I have to be in school at this certain time. And I think that upbringing is a big contribute to my life now.
All right. Now, when I was looking at your background information, I came across a story that suggested that you had a traumatic experience in life a few years ago. I understand that your 2-bedroom house in Wanimokasi was completely razed to the ground in a midday fire and that you and your family lost everything. What effect did that house fire have on you and your family?
There's a lot of memories to that, Sashi. Yes, I lost my house, the 2-bedroom house. That was something that I contributed. I built that house with all the earnings that I have when I started work. I never took a loan. I managed to build my own house. Like I said, my auntie always inspired me because I have to take care of my own self. I don't have to depend on anybody. So I managed to build that house on my own savings. And I went to overseas. I went to the States, to United States for a few years. I worked there and I came back, furnished the house, had this house where all the memories were there. Unfortunately, I lost it in the fire. But prior to that, in Feb 6th, Feb 9th is when I lost my mom. She passed on in life suffering from breast cancer. And the same month, at the end of the month, February 29th, is when I lost my house. So it was not a good year for me. I thought that God had punished me for something. But no, until today, I know that God was just building up on me to become a person I am today.
You know, facing tragedies of that nature, losing your mum and then shortly after losing your house, how did you rise above that tragedy? What was it that motivated you to persevere?
What motivated me, Sashi, because at that point in time, I remembered that I had nothing. And when I turned to my own relatives, I remember that I went to my uncle seeking assistance from him. And he said that he could not help me. And those are the only ones that I thought that could help me is my own family. So I don't blame them, but it's sort of given me encourage that strength to move on, that I don't have to depend my life on anybody else. I have to stand up and rise above because that's not the ending of life. There are better things in life which I know that I can achieve. So from that, I told my family, I cannot complete my education here in Fiji. I need to go abroad to be away from this incident that happened in my life because it will spoil my education. That's the reason I have to go to Vanuatu to complete my law degree. I thank the Lord because God just opened up the ways. I even knocked on government doors to help me. I even knocked to other friends, which they assisted me. And even my own family. When I say my family, it's my son, who was always there for me and my husband, yeah.
You've mentioned your law degree. What made you pursue a law degree? Why did you want to become a lawyer?
There are many reasons that I wanted to become a lawyer. One of it because as you can see in my CV, I joined the UN, United Nations, UNICEF. And in that unit, I was working with child protection, which mainly deals with laws. So that what inspired me to continue with to study law and be a lawyer professional. Not only that, I see what is happening around Fiji with women and children. With all these incidents, being raped by their own relatives. It's eyesore seeing all this, that people that we can trust, at the end of the day, it's the people who ruined our lives. So I think to know the laws and to make changes in the community, I need to go and study law.
Okay. Now I understand these days you have your own law firm. Let me give you a free plug. What is your law firm called and where is it located? It's free advertisement for you.
Oh, thank you, Sashi. Yes, I have my own law firm. It's located at Nosori. It's called Lazel Lawyers, as my
Okay.
last name, Lazel Lawyers. And it's located right opposite the mobile service station. Those who know Nosori very well, it's just next to the Suva Nosori van where they loaded the passengers. There's a mobile service station beside it, very opposite. You'll see this big logo, Lazel Lawyers.
All right. When I look at you, you are someone who has gone through life's highs and lows. To persevere and achieve what you have, it must take certain personal values. What are the values that are important to you in life?
First is to acknowledge God, because I know in everything I achieve, it's not through my own strength, it's God that gives me that strength. And secondly is family. People that are very close to you, families, your close friends, people that are there when you cry, people that assisted you when you needed them the most. So those are the things that I value most in lives. It's those people who built you, who doesn't have these negative thoughts, who doesn't look at you in a different way. Those are what I values in life.
And as a young woman, why is there a need for you to speak up?
This is one of the barriers that I always see. Even Sashi, before even coming for this interview, days before this, I was a bit worried because those are one of the barriers for us women. Our mindset needs to change because of that fear to speak out. We always worried about what people will say about us if we have to say this, or what will people think if I have to share these thoughts. Those are the fears in us women. And those fears, those mindset needs to be taken out. The beliefs, we have to believe in our own self. We have to believe that we can do things just like anybody else. But there should be a learning point. Lack of self-esteem, that's why you have to feel confident in doing things, in making decisions. And there's a need to speak out. And I see this as one of the main barriers for women and young girls nowadays.
All
They
right.
don't speak out at the right time. Yeah.
All right. Have a little break, have a sip of water. You are watching Sashi Singh's Talking Point, and our chief guest today is Miss Lydia Lazel, lawyer and provisional candidate for the SODELPA party. Please like and share the SSTP page on your own timelines so that we may share this broadcast with as many people as possible. And don't forget, immediately after this interview, we will speak to Ms. Seni Nambo, the General Secretary of the National Federation Party. Now, Lydia, let me explore with you your interest in political life. What was the event or scenario that got you interested in politics?
Thank you, Mr. Singh. What really caught me to enter into politics is what happened to me in life along my journey. I once was acting for CEO at Nosori Town Council. I was acting for almost 9 months period. I was the youngest employee at that point in time with the council. But I was happy that the board trusted me and appointed me to act as a CEO. The application went out in the paper. I lodged in, or I sent in my application. I went for an interview, and I received a call from the Ministry of Local Government to do my police report and a medical report. So in any case, Sashi, in any case, if somebody calls you for an interview and then asks you to do your medical report or your police report, you know that there's green light at the end. So I was happy. And then I received a call, okay, ma'am, you have to just wait because COVID just hit the country or hit global. And it's a new thing. So they said, you have to wait until COVID passes. So I was waiting patiently. The next thing I received a call from PS telling me tomorrow, this is Friday that I received this call, tomorrow we'll announce the new CEO. I said, okay. And in the next statement, she said, unfortunately, you will not be the CEO. And I said, why? I've been asked to do my medical report, police clearance, and all this. And at the end, I was just given a phone call and told that somebody else is replacing me. So nothing can be done because she said, this is from the Prime Minister and that's final. So I accepted that. 2 weeks after, I received a call from PM's office telling me that I needed to give a statement. And I said, a statement on what? He said, why were you not elected as a CEO? And I said, okay, I thought that comes from the PM. She said, no, we want to take a statement from you. So on that particular day, I was attending a High Court matter. So after the High Court, I was picked from the court, went up to the military camp, and I was interviewed for almost 2 hours on to give my statement, the reason I was not selected as a CEO. After that, they told me you have to wait. PM will make a decision on that. I waited, Sashi, until to date. I still have not heard anything.
Okay, where are you going with this? The reason my question is, what was the event or scenario that got you interested in politics? Was this the event?
Yeah, that was the event that interested me to enter into politics, because I know you need to get into power to change laws that are in place. You need to get into powers to change these kind of things that is happening around us.
All right. Now, which political party did you first align yourself with? What was it that attracted you to that particular political party?
Since politics is a new platform for me, I was being invited by Unity. I accepted it. And a few months later, by going through, because then there was no manifesto for Unity. And then I was given the chance from SODELPA. I looked at the manifesto. I think that this is what I believe. So that's why I changed from Unity to SODELPA.
Now, Lydia, let me ask you, you're a young person. As a young person, you would have grown up in the coup culture in Fiji. What effect do you think the coup culture has had on Fiji?
I will try to elaborate few of the scenario here to answer that question. Taking us back from 1874 to 1970, when the Fiji was still under the leadership of Great Britain. Come 1970, Fiji became independent. And we still headed by the Queen, where we have the Governor General, who is the representative to Fiji at that point in time. From 1970 to 1987 is when the first coup happened, 14th May 1987, by the RFMF. In 25th September 1987, the second coup happened, and this was led by Mr. Rambuka. The impact of that coup till today I could still see that, the economy hasn't rised up, I would say. It still hasn't rised up. There are so many impacts. And because of the 1987, the first coup that happened in Fiji is because of the Mbavandra government. Because the insecurity in us, it okay. I'll say it okay. Because there were more members of MPs in that coalition party at that point in time. And this was the cause of the coup then. So to me, when I say this, that insecurity in us, it's okay because of the Indo-Fijians are rising above. It causes the coup. So
No,
I see it
stop. I'll have to ask you to stop. I'm not after a history lesson on coups. I have not asked you the reasons for the coup. My question was, what effect do you think the coup culture has had on Fiji? And I think you've partially answered that. You've mentioned that the economy has not
the
risen at all.
economy.
Yeah. So
Yes.
are there any other effects that you'd like to talk about before I move on?
The effects is that because of the insecurity in us it's okay, because that causes the coup, and that is still today. We have to come out from that. We have to respect each other. We have to respect each other in our own culture, in religious, in what we believe, so that we can work together and move
All right,
forward
now,
from that
okay.
culture.
All right, Bainimarama had stated that he carried out the 2006 coup to rid the country of corruption. Do you think he has achieved what he set out to achieve?
I disagree. I disagree with that, Sashi.
Yes, and why is that?
Why is that? Because, like I said, there's a lot of impacts from then that we still suffer today. We still haven't seen Fiji rising up prior to the coup.
Okay. Let me talk about your SODELPA party. You joined SODELPA. You've now been declared a provisional candidate for SODELPA. Now, some initial SODELPA members defected and went and joined the People's Alliance Party. And there are rumors that as soon as this term of parliament comes to an end, there may be more defections. Can you tell us if there are major issues? What are the major issues that SODELPA faces today?
I think SODELPA has gone through a lot for the past 2 years, but we managed to rise above. With this new 50 provincial candidates that has been announced, we've put that aside. We've put the differences aside. We've tried to come in terms. There's a lot of new candidates that are coming in with professionals, with their own experience, and that is what they brought into the party. We've worked at unity is there. We've worked in unity with these 50 candidates, and that's the way forward. And I think that's the reason, because what I believe or what I stand for, that SODELPA stands for everything, and that's something that I believe.
How united is SODELPA today?
We are united. The reason I say this, that we are united, SODELPA is the only party that managed to have our manifesto together with our financial statement. That shows unity. That shows confidence. And that shows that we are committed and responsible enough to form a government now.
All right. Well, now that the election date has been announced, I'm sure other political parties would be putting out their manifestos as well. Let me ask you another question. What of the Moses Mbolitavu effect on SODELPA? He seems to be singing praises of the policies of the Fiji First Party. What effect does that have in your party?
There's no effect to us, like I said, because the new provincial candidate now, we are trying to move away from those. Moses Mbulitabu has made his choice. He has moved on. with his new party, and we wish him good luck on that.
Okay, well said. Let me now explore with you what you think are the major areas of concerns in Fiji. As a young woman, as a professional, as a mother, what do you think are the major areas or issues of concern in Fiji? What concerns you the most?
What concerns me the most, Sashi, one is about the vulnerable people, and that is women and children. If you look at our health facilities, and I think that is one of the things that SODELPA is working on, is to focus in upgrading our hospitals. Now, as we speak now, people are coming to the hospitals and are asked to bring in their own beddings, which never happened before. In worst case scenarios, people have been asked to, the relatives can't stay in the hospital. So those are the things that we need. The supply of medical equipments, we need to upgrade the medical equipments in Fiji. The supply of medicines is even short. Simple things, especially in the rural areas, not so much in the cities, but in the rural areas. Even I read in at one point in time, there's a decomposed body in Rakiraki Hospital because of the lack of temperature that is required. So those are the things that SODELPA is working on in terms of health.
All right. Now, you have a young son, Thomas, who's going to school. What are your views currently on the education system in place in Fiji? Do you think there needs to be a change in the current education system?
Oh, yes, Sashi, definitely. There needs to be a change. And I thank SODELPA that will uphold the education system, the education, because education is the key to Fiji's peace and prosperity and happiness. So SODELPA is looking at advocating free education and shall forgive all students' loan incurred under Treasury, and also to review the education system, which is now. And most of all, because we see that the teachers, they've been affected in terms of their contracts, their working contracts. Some of them are even getting 1 month contract. So those are the things that SODELPA will look into, is try to upgrade the working contracts and give long terms instead of short terms. And as I speak, because we under the section 116, we are required to provide a financial statement. All these that I'm saying, we can anybody can log into our website, because everything there is together with our financial statement as required. Because like I said, we'll be moving away from trying to free students with their loans, the TELS loans, and upgrade the education facility.
Yeah, that's my next question. You've mentioned that you'll write off the student loans. How is that going to be funded? I mean, where will you account for that in terms of dollars and cents?
We have an estimate budget that is on our website, and I think that clearly state where we're going to get that financial statement, and it's all in details. So I'll refer the viewers to the website so that they can get the true budget estimations on that.
All right, we'll leave that there. Now, as a young person and being someone who has gone through the university education system, what are your views on the University of the South Pacific saga, where the government of the day has held back close to $80 million worth of grant money? What are your views?
My views in that, Sashi, first of all, I disagree what the government had done on this, because USP has been a second home for most of our students. Most of Fiji will benefit a lot from this. One, because of the location, it's just in Fiji. And secondly, it provides a lot of studies where we can be our own professional. So if USP Council decided to move USP to another country, that's when we'll find difficulties, a small country like Fiji. So I totally disagree. We need to come out from our political issues on this and see what is best for our future generation.
How do you think the withholding of the grant affects the lives of the students in terms of their educational programs, in terms of research papers, etc.?
There's a lot of impacts to it because those grants assisted USP to provide students what is essential for them to continue their studies. Now students have been asked, I was talking to one of my candidate friends, and she even mentioned like she has two nieces who are currently schooling at USP. Now they have to go back home, even if they have to go and have lunch. Prior to that, we used to have like urns at school provided by the school so that we can have our meals right at school, even if we do daylights. All those things are provided for us. So with this, Fiji is not giving their shares to USP. These are some of the impacts that student faces.
All right. Now, when one looks at the daily water cuts, the never ending electricity disruptions, etc., it does not take an Einstein to realize that the infrastructure is old, in desperate need of an overhaul, and the need is now, not tomorrow or next week. Now, how bad is the situation, and what plans do SODELPA have in place to address this chronic problem?
What SODELPA have, I think one of the major input in that is the employment contract. Because some of the employers, they have short-term contracts. Like I said, some was even a month. That is an impact to all this. Water and FTA are essential to our lives, everyday living. We need that. We need, especially with water. We can go without electricity for 1 or 2 days, but not so long. But to me, having short-term contracts to the employers, we need to look into the human resources, because without human resources, there'll be nobody that can facilitate or assist public to provide this kind of essential services. That is the main thing that we need to look into, the human resources as a whole. We need to give in good working environment to employees. We need to provide them with good working conditions so that they feel secure and perform their duty to the best of their ability.
So, are you trying to say that it is because of human resources not being happy at the workplace that there are disruptions to water,
I'm
electricity
saying that is
supply,
one of the main
or
contributing.
or is it an issue of old infrastructure?
I'm saying, Sashi, that is one of the contributing factor. Secondly, as you mentioned, is because of this old infrastructure already in place, and Fiji needs a lot of money to renew all these special pipes. And I'll say about no sorry, because I was acting CEO. When there's one small rain, the whole town is flooded. It's because of the old infrastructure underneath, and there was no good planning done before. So in order to renew all this, we need a lot of money.
Well, the government
And
seems
the
to be
question of
borrowing.
how, yeah. And the question of how do we get this? That's why in my beginning statement, I said we need to work together. We need to take our differences aside and work together for the betterment of our future.
Let me ask you, how do you think the government is addressing this problem of daily water disruptions and electricity cuts?
I think they're doing good, but not their best.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They
And
can do better. They can do better.
All right, looking at poverty, it's a huge problem in Fiji, and regardless of which indicators or figures one uses, the reality of the matter is that this is a major concern in the country. What is the reality on the ground, Lydia, when you move around the communities of observing poverty firsthand? What is the condition?
Sometimes even during my campaign, I moved to, because I mostly represented the descendants of the blackbirds there. When I move around to their communities, it just brings heartbreaking. The conditions they live in. And they've been saying that they've been going to the government, knocking on these doors, and seems like nobody is listening. That's the reality on the ground. What SODELPA is doing is to prioritize this and the ability at least to provide the basic needs. Some of these families, Sashi, even to get a meal for a day, they really have to work hard on that. Children have to be sent out to sell roti parcels after schools. Those are realities on the ground. Rainy days, they don't have shelters, good shelters to house them. And this is something that the government really need to look into. But I think it's not really doing its good job.
All right. So, how do you think the next elected government should tackle the scourge of poverty in Fiji?
One is to agriculture. We'll go back into agriculture because Fiji, we have a lot of land, vacant land, and that is our main resources. We need to put in a lot of money into agriculture so that people can learn to plant their own. And instead of buying a lot, we need to plant our own and provide for the essential, the basic needs. And one of it is food.
Okay. All right. Well, have a break, Lydia. You are watching Sashi Singh's Talking Point, and our chief guest today is Miss Lydia Lazel, lawyer and provisional candidate for SODELPA. Please like and share the SSTP page on your own timelines so that we may share this broadcast with as many people as possible. And don't forget, immediately after this interview, we will speak to Ms. Seni Nambo, the General Secretary of the National Federation Party. Seni's in the green room waiting. Seni, take it easy. We will have you on shortly. Thank you for the thumbs up. Relax, Manda. We have a little way to go with Lydia, but we will certainly have you with us right after this interview. Now, Lydia, let me discuss matters of democracy in the land. Let me ask you first up, from where you stand in Fiji today, is Fiji truly democratic?
Straight answer to that, Sashi, it's a no.
And
I
why
don't
is
think
it a
so.
big no? Why?
It's a big no because when I grew up, I remember that we have that freedom of speech. If you want to say something, you can just say it openly. Now, even when we speak now, I have to be very mindful of the answers that I give you. Because the next thing, I might be taken to task. And that's the reality now. You cannot openly share your mind, your thoughts. There's no freedom of speech now.
And
Those freedom has been taken away from us.
And why do you think it has been taken away? Why does Fiji find itself in the position it does?
I think it's because of the lawmakers of the day, the government who is currently in power now, and they are in a dictatorship leadership kind. You can't even say, like before, when I grew up, I have to be accepted in this. When I grew up, we can openly say that's a Fijian or that's Itoke, that's an Indo-Fijian. But now you can't say Indians, otherwise you'll be charged. Because under the 2013 Constitution, we are all called Fijian, which I totally disagree. I totally disagree with that, in the sense that we are all different. We are different in culture. We are different in our language, the way we eat, the way we see things. We are all different. And we cannot reverse something that God has implanted in us. See, we have to respect that. We have to, and so SODELPA is trying to uphold this so that we can respect each other. We need each other in life. We need each other. So the moment you say anything bad about the current government, that's the moment you'll be taken to task. There's no freedom of speech or free opinion.
All right, now, Archbishop Peter Lloyd Chong, the head of the Catholic Church in Fiji, said recently that, and I quote, "Wherever participation, freedom for people to speak, and giving their opinion is denied on decisions, it creates fear and division," end of quote. So, moving on from what you said, that you don't have the freedom of speech, coupled with that, is there then a culture of fear amongst the general population to speak openly as well?
Oh, yes. Yes, Sashi. There is fear. Even speaking to you now, I have fear. I have to make sure that I speak out the right words.
All right. And what is the fear? I mean, what is the fear generally?
The fear is I might say some statement, or I might say something that is discriminating in a way which I'm not meaning to that. For example, if I just say Indians in the current 2013, that is discrimination. But it's not. It's not. It's the way that I want to share my views openly, which I can't. I can't now. The law doesn't allow me to do so.
Right. All right. I would now like to raise some matters in relation to women in Fiji. You said in your opening statement how important it was that, women were not really represented. They had this mindset. Firstly, do you think there is adequate women's representation in Parliament? And if not, what do you attribute this to?
Compared to the 1995, we had only 4.3% of women represented in Parliament. Come to 2020, at least it has risen to 21.6%. But I still feel that we still have not enough women represented in Parliament. We should have 30%. And I hope that this general election will have more women represented in Parliament.
All right, that's something to aim for, and the voters will determine that on the 14th of December. Now, statistics reveal that the incidence of domestic violence in Fiji is at very high levels. How can women best safeguard themselves against atrocities like domestic violence, sexual violence, etc.?
The only thing that can safeguard us is the law. The law needs to protect us. And secondly, we need to advocate. We need to do a lot of awareness workshop right from primary school level. When a child grew up, he or she needs to respect women. He needs to respect a mother, a sister, in that nature. And one thing that I believe, that lack of education in the curriculum education system in Fiji to respect women in society, I think this is one of the main contributing factors why this is happening. And another thing, we need to increase the penalties, to the harsh penalties to perpetrators, because now it's not only outside people that are doing this, it's in our own house. It can be your father, it can be your uncle, your grandfather, in whom a child, a female child, is responsible to.
Now, you've mentioned harsh penalties. Do you really think harsh penalties work? Because we have had instances where the courts in Fiji have handed down sentences like 12 years or 14 years for rape, for instance. But with such sentences passed by the judiciary, the incidence of rape and sexual violence does not seem to uh, reduce itself. The numbers are still high and getting higher. So, what must be done? As a lawyer, what changes would you like to see implemented by the lawmakers?
What changes that needs to be done? I think we need women to be represented when making laws, because only a woman will understand another woman. So to me, there is lack in this area. There is lack of women being represented in lawmakers, especially the laws that governs us women, that can protect us women in the society. So we need a women mind there, because we'll best know another women.
All right. Well, Lydia, the general election campaign obviously began in April of this year. And today, the date has been announced for the general elections, the polling date, 14th of December. You spoke of freedom, or rather the lack of freedom of speech. You spoke of fear. So, in that light, let me ask you, how free are the political parties to campaign openly? Have you found any limitations?
I've found a lot of limitation in campaign. The 2018, because I went through that election, people have that freedom to campaign. You know, they can campaign of what the party is will do when they come into power. But now, as we speak, we have this law 116 4C that whatever manifesto you say, you have to provide it with a financial statement. And how will you do that? See, these are new things. These are new things. And even when you go out to campaign, you have to be mindful of what you say. Even if you sell a parcel of roti so that they will beg you for your campaign, you have to account that. See, most of us, especially I'm talking about the SODELPA provincial candidates, most of us are new in this platform. So even preparing these financial things, we have to include everything where the money is coming in. So that is a task of its own.
All right. Now, last month, the SODELPA party leader, William Ngaboka, announced that there were 50 policies in the SODELPA manifesto that was released. And these policies include health and indigenous affairs, etc. I know you've mentioned that the manifesto is on your website and you've asked viewers to view that. Let me ask you a specific question. SODELPA has said that it will revive the Great Council of Chiefs and return control of the provincial councils to the Vanua. Can you please explain to the viewers what role and in what capacity will the Great Council of Chiefs return?
SODELPA is a Leni Vanua concept. It's something that we believe that it's the people. It's the people by the people. It's what the people want. And I think for it okay in this matter, our chiefs are paramount to us. To bring the Great Council of Chiefs back is a sort of respect and align that taboos in our society, that we still adore them because they are a source of blessing to the Vanua. And that is our culture, to bring that back. This is one thing that the people of Fiji wants. We want to bring our GCC or our Great Council of Chiefs back so that we are recognized in our society.
they will be recognized, but my question was, what role would the GCC play? What role do you see them as playing?
Because it goes back to the Lebanese or to the people. So once we recognize our chiefs, it'll go back to the village settings, and once the village settings are organized, then the nation itself can be organized. And,
All right.
and we need that respect.
All right. Now, do you have any views on the multinational observer groups that will be in the country to observe the elections? What would you like to say about them?
They should be given the freedom to give their free opinion. I think there are certain conditions when these observers were here in Fiji. What I believe, we should give them that freedom. Let them give their opinion freely on what they've seen that is lack or that Fiji can improve on coming elections or in any election event.
All right. Now, speaking of which, do you think that elections in Fiji will be free, fair, and credible?
I only pray, Sashi. I only pray that this upcoming election will be fair, free, and it's the people's choice.
All right. Now, what is your assessment of the 2022 elections? The date has been announced, 14th December. Is there a change in the air? What are the vibes that you are getting on ground level?
Sashi, there is a lot of things that is going ground level. I think this is the first time ever that Fiji has campaigned for more than 6 months. A small country like Fiji, we've been campaigning for more than 6 months now. The message is out there and it's been repeated. But let me remind the viewers today that we, SODELPA, we are ready for this election. We are ready to form the next government.
All right. Having said that, then, what are the real prospects of success for SODELPA? How many seats do you think you'll get to form government?
To form the government, we need that 28 seats or more.
And you are confident that you will form government?
I'm confident. I'm confident in the sense that SODELPA is the only party. It's the party, and I'll repeat that, it's the only party that has put up its manifesto with its financial statement, which is required by law, and we've published it openly for transparency purpose. There's no other party that has did this. These big parties, there's no one have courage to put up their manifesto. So this shows that we are confident, we are committed, we have that responsibility. We are ready to form a government now.
All right. It just makes me wonder how many people will actually go and read your manifesto because you're not prepared to share policies on a platform like this. Let's move the subject now to the incumbent government, the Fiji First Party. They have been in power for 16 years now. How would you rate the Fiji First Party in terms of its achievements since the 2018 elections?
I would rate it as good, but it's not their best.
Mm-hmm. And why is that? What's good? And
because there's still a lot of room for improvement for them. Let's talk about the road. I know that they've did a lot of upgrading of roads. They've spent a lot of money on this upgrading of roads, which is good. But then only one small rain for one day, there are big potholes on the road. So that's why I said it's not the best.
Now, is there any difference between the Fiji First government distributing, say, for example, farm machinery and other utensils in the lead up to the elections as assistant aids or grants, and the opposition parties assisting the poor and the vulnerable because the opposition are accused of vote buying or bribing the people. Any difference?
To me, it is just the same. They are just assisting societies with the machineries and all. It's just another way of buying votes also. Say, for example, the opposition party wants to visit the VRAC, the recent incident that happened in Fiji, just to provide basic food needs. And we were told that because of the law, we are buying votes. And on the other hand, they were distributing machineries to women communities. They were distributing farming tools. Isn't that why now, at this point, when election is just around the corner? Why didn't they do that prior, during their 3 years term? When it's close to election, and this is like a full swing kind of thing. They're going everywhere and distributing this. To me, there's no difference. It's just the same thing. When we opposition parties, we really want to help people who are in need, they said that is buying votes.
All right, have a little break. We come down and head to the home stretch. You are watching Sashi Singh's Talking Point, and our chief guest today is Ms. Lydia Lazel, lawyer and provisional candidate for SODELPA. Please like and share the SSTP page on your own timelines so that we may share this broadcast with as many people as possible. And don't forget, immediately after this interview, we will speak to Ms. Seni Nambo, the General Secretary of the National Federation Party. Now, Lydia, as we head to the finishing line, what are your aims as you gear up for the elections?
My aim, Mr. Sashi, is to win election. Maybe to become the next Prime Minister of Fiji. Fiji hasn't had any female PM, Prime Minister. Look at our neighboring countries like New Zealand. There's a female Prime Minister. And I always wonder why, when there are female representatives in Parliament, but we are not given the opportunity, the chance to become the Prime Minister. My aim for this election is to win a seat in Parliament and make a difference.
All right. And what are your views on the current leader of SODELPA, Mr. William Ngavoka?
My views on the current leader of SODELPA, he's a humble person. He's a man of his word. He is ready to become the next Prime Minister. He's a down-to-earth person. He's a person that listens to everyone.
All right. Now, do you think the people of Fiji are ready for SODELPA?
Yes, I think the people of Fiji are ready for SODELPA. Like I mentioned, and I mention it again, because we are the first political party that had our manifesto ready. And that is one thing that the people need. That's one thing that the people needs to believe is what we're going to bring out there for the people. So we are confident. That is the indication that we are ready to form this new government.
All right. Well, time will tell. 6 weeks is not too far to go. And 14th of December is D-Day. Lydia, do you have a message to the people of Fiji, for the people of Fiji?
Thank you, Sashi. My message to the people of Fiji, I know that the parliament has been dissolved today, so anytime soon, maybe tomorrow, the writ will be out. I hope that everybody has been registered. If you are registered, make sure to vote. Because in the 2018, there were 178,000 people who were registered but did not vote. Please, people of Fiji, we need change. And the time to make the change is now. The election is just around the corner. Make sure to make your vote count. The next message is we are the first party with our manifesto ready, and everything that is required by law by us is also advertised, and we are ready to form a government. We are confident, we are committed, we have that responsibility, we are ready to form the government and to serve the people of Fiji to the best of our ability. Thank you.
And finally, do you have any thoughts and or closing remarks on the SSTP program that you've just participated in?
Thank you, Sashi. I must thank you for this program. Thank you for bringing this platform, so that we can be heard, not only in Fiji, but globally. And I think this program is perfect in the sense that it's a platform where we can advocate what we really need, changes that we need. And I only hope that this program will continue so that we can make changes in what is needed now.
Vinaka, thank you very, very much indeed. A big Vinaka Bakalevu to you, Lydia. Thank you for being my chief guest in episode 42 of Sashi Singh's Talking Point today. It has been a pleasure to have you as chief guest. I thank you for your views on a range of topics that we've discussed today. Please convey my appreciation to your party leader, Mr. William Ngavoka, for putting forward your name to participate in this episode. Now, let me, through you, send an invitation to your party leader. Now that the election date has been announced, you can tell Mr. Ngavoka that I am issuing him an open invitation to participate in a Sunday program to put forward his party's views, etc. Can you do that for me?
I will do that. Thank you, Sashi.
All right. Well, look, thank you so very much. You have a blessed Sunday, and I wish you all the very best in the forthcoming elections. Cheers and good luck.
Thank you, Sachi. Thank you.
Nakna. Well, that was our chief guest, Lydia Lazel, lawyer and provisional candidate for the SODELPA party. And don't go away, because right now, as announced, it is my pleasure to speak to Ms. Seni Nambo, the General Secretary of the National Federation Party. Seni Nisam Bulavinaka, welcome back to SSTP.
Bulavinaka, Sashi, belated Diwali greetings to you and to the viewers. Happy dissolution of Parliament Day. And I also want to wish Lydia all the best in the elections as a woman candidate. Thank you for having me on.
Wonderfully said. How did you find Diwali this year in Fiji? What were the celebrations like?
It was well. I mean, I live in Suva, and I thought that it was quite subdued. A number of us talked about how we thought Diwali, maybe it was the weather. It was quite rainy. But then I also talked to a counterpart from Ba, and he also said the same thing, that Diwali was quite subdued. So, those are signals that political parties need to take heed of.
All right. Let me tell our viewers the reason I invited Ms. Nambo today, the General Secretary of the National Federation Party. The party leader has been in the news, and I thought I'd invite the General Secretary on the program to discuss things to do with the National Federation Party. But this morning we learned that the date has been announced. So let me just proceed first talking about the party before we come to matters in relation to the general election, Seni. NFP has been very busy, it seems. Can you give us a snapshot of what's been going on with the party in readiness for the elections? What's happening?
Thank you, Sashi. So I think I'll just give a brief snapshot of some of the things that we've been involved in for the last 2 to 3 weeks. We had a complaint to the elections office from Mr. Taniguchi about so-called offensive text messages. The NFP party leader was invited to respond to that complaint. He wrote to the elections office and refuted all those allegations. And Professor Biman asked Mr. Samlim to advise if there was an actual electoral breach in the complaint. The elections office later told them the media that Mr. Prasad, that complaint pertaining to Mr. Prasad has been dismissed. That same week, the FFP General Secretary held a press conference where he detailed a list of complaints against the People's Alliance Party. In between that long communication, there was a random insertion about me and how I was doing fundraising. So I called it a complaint that wasn't really a complaint, but I also had to answer some questions of the elections office. Even though I know full well that there's not actually an electoral breach, I know what my responsibilities are. So the FEO has cleared me. Then we also filed a complaint to the Electoral Commission against the brother of the Supervisor of Elections. It's all public on the NFP Facebook page because Mr. Mohammed Sareem, who is Mr. Saneem's brother, in our view, is a campaigner or an agent of the FFP. His digital footprint is all over social media confirming this. Anyway, we witnessed what we thought, in our view, was blatant vote buying on his TikTok live program, where he sent TikTok virtual money to a guest of his show in response to his guest saying that his family had 10 votes. The Electoral Commission ruled out our complaint. Then we lodged a complaint to FICAC about FFP's breach of electoral laws pertaining to the signage on the SCC car park. The breach was both admitted to by the elections office and the FFP itself. So we're keenly awaiting the outcome of that FICAC investigation. Then we had our billboard saga, where the elections office directed us to remove our party billboard because it was on a public road area. So we brought that back into our compound. And of course, last week, our party leader was taken in for questioning by the police CID and charged, and he has to appear in court on the 15th of November. So as you said, very busy days indeed. These political ploys are to be expected. In fact, I got a message from a party supporter just like last week, and he was quite, worried for us. He said, "What's happening to our party?" And I said, "Look, don't worry. We don't call ourselves the No Fear Party for nothing, and we can give back the political buturaki just as good as we get it, and we're always ready for it."
I like that, political mutaraki. Now, amidst all of these manifestations, amongst all of these things happening, the pressure with your party leader, the complaints to the elections office, to FICAC, what is the general mood at the NFP office? What is the general mood amongst your supporters? What's the feeling right now?
Well, we take our cues from the leader. He is the captain of the ship, and he has just released a statement, or he spoke about it during a meeting last week. So the party is focused on winning elections with the People's Alliance. We know the risks before us, but we all have backbones of titanium. Our party leader continues to show the way and lead from the front. He is calm and resolute, and despite suppression and persecution, and that's how we roll. The NFP is unfazed. We're focused, and ever since all this stuff that happens to us isn't very new. It has been happening to us from 2014. So if we look at it philosophically, it's actually character building because it makes us stronger. And Professor Biman is an honorable man. He's a very wise person, and he's no ordinary leader. The AGM of 2014 elected him in to be the party leader, and the AGM over continuous years has continued to elect Mr. Prasad as our party leader. But I just want to say that the political suppression that we endure is really not how politics should be done. And so when Fiji changes the government on 14th December 2022, it will also change the way politics is done. And I really want to appeal to the young voters that this is not how politics is, but the power is definitely in their hands to change the script.
Seni, the long-awaited mystery is now over. This morning, we learned that the country goes to the polls on Wednesday, 14th of December. What would you like to say now that the polling date has been announced?
At last would be my first reaction. And what it really means is that all systems go for political parties, like us. So now a whole lot of timelines kick into effect from tomorrow when the writ is actually issued. The first thing that will happen is that as of tomorrow, once the writ is issued, no other voter, you cannot register anymore. So the voter roll closes, and then the elections office will also be, looking to finalize the voter roll. Within 2 weeks from tomorrow, we have a big job, and that is to finalize and send through our candidate nominations to the elections office. There's a whole lot of disclosures that need to be filed with that, all the assets and the liabilities of the candidates. We've also asked, them to send in, police clearance, a tax clearance, their travel. So all that we will be assessing very carefully, because it has been told to us by the elections office that if any of our candidates files information that is incorrect, there could be grave repercussions for the political parties. So we have to watch that very carefully. On top of that, we also need to get postal voters offshore, get them organized, because they only have 2 weeks in which to apply. And very soon the elections office should be putting out a link or some way in which they can apply to get a postal ballot. And there are a few things that the elections office will check, like their voter ID cards, their address of where the ballot papers to be delivered and all that. Yes, and while we're all focused on the 14th December date, about 70,000 of the voters registered will undergo pre-polling, and that will happen 2 weeks before 14th December. So the elections office, we expect them to be releasing a schedule of those pre-poll dates and times soon as well.
Would you know when the nominations close? When does it have to be filed by? And when is the final candidate list finalized by the elections office?
So as soon as the writ's issued, 14 days, 2 weeks.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Now,
yes. So if we pass through that nomination hurdle, then they will do the the number roll. You're given a number, and that's the number you appear as on the ballot paper.
yes, it's just a number. Important numbers as well. Now, the Multinational Observer Group have put out the terms of reference. Does the National Federation Party have any thoughts about that?
I believe the terms of reference would not be any different from what Australia, India, and Indonesia agreed to for the 2018 elections. And some of the clauses, really are brow-raising, and they seem quite prescriptive. But that's really for those MOG countries to discuss with their taxpayers, because they'll have to pay for those observers to be here. But one thing I do want to point out here, Sashi, is that the FFP General Secretary is very fond of reading out the EU report on the their findings of the 2006 elections. And he holds that up as some kind of standard. So the question we need to ask is why the EU has not been part of the MOD group from 2018 elections if the government likes these standards of electoral integrity.
Good question indeed. A very telling question. Now,
Correct.
what are the voters telling the National Federation Party? What are you hearing?
up until yesterday, it was everybody was saying, when is the elections? When is the elections? And we were just saying, we're all waiting. The other second common comment that we receive is, we need change. We need change. So, we're telling the voters, well, you know what to do. And as of today, now that we do know an electoral date, I'm sure the people will be eagerly awaiting their chance to determine the destiny of Fiji.
Let me ask you another question. I've recognized, and your party leader has a press statement on that, the Fiji First billboards. They seem to have re-emerged in a big, big way, just like it did the pre-2018 elections. Does your party have any thoughts on that?
Thoughts about those billboards? Not really. But they did do this in 2018 as well. And I do wonder if it had any impact on the vote numbers, because it's not cheap to put up those massive billboards. And for FFP's 2018 investment, they only got 50.02 of the total votes, which is a razor thin majority. But, that's their call, and they can do whatever they like.
Okay. Well, the proof is going to be in the pudding, as they say, and we'll find out come the 15th, I guess. By that stage, we should have a very good idea which way the country is heading. Now, Seni, what in NFP's views are the most pressing bread and butter issues facing the nation right now?
Thank you, Sashi. So in 2018, one of the biggest common things that we heard was the cost of living was, just a point of concern across the board. This time around, that the cost of living is still there, inflation, but it's now heightened by more basic things that we cannot understand why the government has not addressed. For example, water. Taps from, sporadically, you cannot get 24/7 water in certain parts of the nation. Electricity is the same. Sometimes, we're going to have power outages, and then you only get a day's notice from the EFL. And then you've got the hospitals, really in a dire situation. I note that the government had 2 weeks ago talked about the 2 open heart surgeries that were conducted, and that's great. But is that a sustainable model? Are the hospitals who are conducting these operations able to manage heart operations in addition to other urgent medical needs like traffic accidents, medical surgery that also requires the use of the operating theaters? And then, of course, we've got the roads, the pothole situation, education. It's all culminating in a rolling ball of just dissatisfaction from what we are hearing from the voters. And on the issue of the roads, Sashi, I just want to mention that this idea of a 1.5 billion freeway, cut through the Viti level, sometimes you just got to ask yourself, I mean, are they really wanting to win the elections here, or are they hoping that this narrative will overtake the realities of the people? Because people are looking at the billboards, they're looking at this idea of a highway, and they're asking, where's my water? Where's my electricity? So very interesting times ahead of us, Sashi.
You can fool some of the people some of the time. You can't fool all the people all the time. That is a wonderful, wonderful line that people must recognize. And when I read that yesterday about this bloody highway going right through the middle of Vitilevu, the first thing that came to my mind was, wow, another election gimmick. And once the election's over, it's put away in a cupboard. And there's so many things that can be argued against that concept. But let's move on. Public polling is something I've always had an interest in. with public polling such as those that were used to be conducted by the Fiji Times Tablet polls, and in recent times, the Western Force and Fiji Sun polls, as you and I know, they've been disallowed now. How does that hinder your campaign efforts? I mean, wouldn't it be nice leading into the election to have a poll published, say next Saturday, which says, boom, this is where each party stands? How does it affect your campaign?
Well, it's always beneficial to any political party, I guess, to have a third perspective about things that the people feel need addressing. And then when you have a third party like a polling agency doing it for the media, that's helpful. In terms of uh, whether our campaigns are hindered, not really, because it doesn't prevent political parties from doing their own private polling. But for the greater good of the electorate, it's always nice for them to be able to understand that this is what a certain segment of the nation is thinking about, and then that also generates discussions among themselves so that they can make more better informed choices about those who they choose to lead the nation.
Now, how does Professor Biman Prasad's charges affect the party? Um, I mean, insulting one's modesty. How does that affect the party itself?
I have to be very careful about how I answer this, but the party is 200% behind Professor Biman Prasad. And we know that whatever these allegations are will all be played out in court and then let the judges do what they need to do. But the party is unwavering in our support of Professor Biman Prasad. And we all know that these are not, no, I'll just end it there.
Yeah, all right. I respect that. Totally respect that. Now, let me ask you, as an aside, have you stopped hugging and kissing people? Have you stopped embracing people when you meet to greet them?
I have not. And I will wait to be charged for it.
All right. Please don't stop. It's a term of endearment. It's a term of affection. When you meet somebody and you greet them, don't stop doing that. Now, Sani, does it seem to you and others in the party, and I heard you use the word just a moment or so ago, that there is a form of political persecution crusade being conducted in Fiji?
Yes. And I think I heard your previous guest also point to that about the freedom of expression. And now it's backed up by law. So in terms of presenting our ideas to the electorate, we will consult about policy matters that we feel needs to set the nation back on course. We have to be very careful about how we craft those ideas because of the draconian clauses in the manifesto process that is a normal process for political parties. Similarly, how things are taken out of context and misconstrued, and then all these administrative hurdles that we have to go through. They are daunting, but we don't give up that easily.
Mhm.
We can write letters all day.
All right. And I know you're a prolific writer. So that much I know. Now, Sani, you've been announced as a provisional candidate for the National Federation Party. Now that the election date has been announced, how do you plan your activities leading up to polling day? One, as a provisional candidate. Two, as the General Secretary of the party.
That's a great question. So my responsibilities will be twofold. I need to be out there working and getting my votes. And at the same time, I need to have eyes at the back of my head to make sure that we're all up to speed in terms of the requirements by law, that we are on top of any complaints, that we're on top of legal matters that we have to deal with. So yeah, I'm probably not going to be sleeping a lot, but the fact that I do have eyes at the back of my head, I think I can attribute that to being a mother of 4 children. So I think I'm quite equipped to handle that.
Seni, any final words, last say for today to the voters out there, to the general public of Fiji?
Sure. So I just would like to appeal to all the voters. We now have a date. Please just hang in there for a little while longer. Adjust your family community plans for weddings, meetings, holidays, so that you are where you need to be on 14th December. And likewise, if you're offshore, overseas, make sure that you apply for a postal ballot as soon as the writ is issued, because you only have 2 weeks to do that. And most of all, don't let anything prevent you from hiring and firing the leaders that you deserve on 14th December 2022.
Great point about postal ballots for people like myself who are overseas voters. And thanks for reminding us that we've got to go onto the elections office site and do whatever necessary we have to do regarding our postal ballots. Well, it took something like 6 weeks for me. The postal envelope showed it took 6 weeks for my voter registration card to arrive at my address, and I certainly hope it doesn't take 6 weeks for my postal ballot papers to arrive. Fingers crossed.
Well, it surely shouldn't, Sashi, because there's a lot of money being allocated to conduct these elections, and I think a sizable chunk of that would be for postal voters to make sure that they get their ballot papers by priority mail, such as CDP or DHL, which delivers to you where you are. So, if there is a problem, please let your party know.
Wonderful. Seni, through you, I'd like to extend to your party leader, Professor Biman Prasad, an open invitation. We have 6 Sundays left before the general elections, and I'd like to extend to him through you an invitation to appear on SSTP to tell us all about the NFP, your policies, etc., a list of candidates that have not been announced, etc., and that is an open invitation. If you could please pass that on to him.
Thank you, Sashi. I will. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Seni, I really take my hat off to you. I thank you for coming on SSTP at such short notice. I wanted to talk to you about where the party stands in light of some personal matters that the party leader is going through. I recognize one thing. The party is far more important than any one individual. And that is always very important to bear in mind. But Seni, once again, thank you so much. All the best with your personal candidature, and all the best to your party as well.
Thank you very much, Sashi.
Vinavalev Seni, Modemanda.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. A 2-in-1 today. Our chief guest, of course, was Ms. Lydia Lazel from the SODELPA party, a provisional candidate. And we've just heard great matters being discussed by the General Secretary of the National Federation Party, Ms. Seni Nambo. To all my viewers, let me tell you before you leave who our chief guest is going to be next week. But before that, I thank you all my viewers, for taking time out to provide your positive feedbacks. Thank you for your emojis. Thank you for your stars. I appreciate it. Nina Moreno, you've sent some stars as well. Naresh Kumar, thank you very much. We appreciate those stars. So thank you once again for those stars and your likes. And remember, SSTP, we ask the questions that Fijians all over the world want answers to. As I say, Fijians want to know. Well, that's all for episode 42 for this week. To my SSTP team, thank you very much for today's episode. We were up and about very early. Thank you to Nikhil Singh for his input. Once the election dates were announced, we had to rehash a number of things for today's program. Now, you, the viewers, you make this platform a huge, huge success. Now, we had a chief guest planned for next week. Now that the election date has been announced, I need to go back and make a couple of phone calls because my idea is for the next few Sundays to try and get the opposition leaders into the studio for a discussion. My invitation to the Fiji First government still stands. If anyone is game enough to come onto the program, I will be happy to accommodate you. But as I say, I'm not holding my breath. But to those who are willing, those who are able, and those who want to take part in the SSTP platform, my invitation to you will be extended by this afternoon via email. And let's get this show on the road as we had to the 14th of December. As I said, I will not announce the chief guest as yet. You'll need to watch the SSTP page and you'll need to follow the developments in the next couple of days. So I hope to see you next Sunday in what now promises to be an exciting 6 weeks as we head towards the finishing line. Next Sunday on Sashi Singh's Talking Point, 11 a.m. Sydney time, 12 noon in Fiji, 1 p.m. in New Zealand, and at 5 p.m. on Saturday afternoon in Los Angeles and San Francisco. So until the next episode, I wish you all a very safe and happy week. And in closing, I leave you with this quote from Maximilian Robespierre. Maximilian Robespierre said, "The secret of freedom lies in educating people, whereas the secret of tyranny is in keeping them ignorant." I'll repeat that. The secret of freedom lies in educating people, whereas the secret of tyranny is in keeping them ignorant. That quote from Maximilian Robespierre. Well, that's it for episode 42 of Sashi Singh's Talking Point. Next week, it is episode 43. Till the next program, I am Sashi Singh, bidding you goodbye, namaste, and ni samode. Goodbye, world.